you for joining us for this conversation on leading before the title. This initiative of ours is built on a simple but often overlooked truth. Leadership doesn't begin with the promotion, it begins with how you lead yourself under pressure. And I want to set the tone right away. We are not giving you any magic bullet or silver bullet or a magic pill. And just listening to the conversation like this won't create a quantum leap in your leadership. Insight alone doesn't change behavior. What actually moves leaders forward are small and steady steps. How you regulate your mind, how you respond under stress, and how consistently you practice clarity before you are given authority. Today's conversation is an invitation to slow down, reflect, and take one meaningful step towards becoming the kind of leaders others already trust, title or not. And joining me on this conversation is my friend Phil Cribbin. Phil is an experienced executive leader in the rail transportation and aerospace sector. Moving from Europe in 2006, living in Washington, D.C. metro area, he has managed large projects worth $500 million. More recently, he directed and led 400 employees at 6 manufacturing plants and logistics across US and Canada. He is also passionate about lifelong learning and personal development, particularly in leadership coaching with the nervous system in mind to help clients create inner space to approach complexity with clarity. Phil, welcome to our conversation. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you very much. And a happy new year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Uh, Phil, from your perspective, I have heard this many times that many people wait for the title to feel ready. From your perspective, what does it mean to lead before the title even arrives?
So to be leading before the title means for me to be able to influence people and create the right culture. And a famous quote from Peter Drucker, which I really like, is culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
So what you want is a culture that is supported by an organization's underlying values, beliefs, and behaviors. So you can have a great strategy, but it will fail if the culture doesn't support its execution as existing habits, routines or rituals and norms are overridden by new directives or direction. So what you want to do as a leader is create an environment where people can thrive and grow.
So lead before the title is also to do with the leader of that organization, how they are setting up the culture, allowing the aspiring leaders to thrive uh, and build those small cultural aspects, build those moments in which they really do well. So great. Thank you, Phil, for sharing that information. For me, leading before the title is do not wait just for that corner office to come. Do not wait for just that promotion to come. Work with your passion. Just do what you're supposed to do and help others along the way. Be a person who is kind enough to support others in their journey. Be the person who is trusted enough to get inputs from for their journey. So leading before the title is just focus on doing what you're doing, focus on helping others who are in and around you, and just making sure that you are taking that small and consistent steps. So yeah. And so Phil, many leaders, this is when I talk to aspiring leaders or seasoned leaders, what I have also experienced is they think that confidence comes from competence or promotion. Now, how does your work, which is that coaching with the nervous system in mind, how does nervous system regulation change the way confidence is built before the title arrives? What does nervous system play the role in building the confidence for people?
Okay. So for me, in my experiencing of and doing research and training on the Neurospot business model, I found that while many leadership and coaching models emphasize a mindset or strategy, and we talked about the strategy of a right culture that will beat the strategy if you don't have that in place, they often miss biological or psychological influences that shape our actions. So understanding your internal systems, recognizing how biology impacts behavior and how we work and attune with people. So all those things by biology, and I'll explain a little bit more later around sleep and diet and exercise and space and being quiet and being able to bring that. How do you bring that back forward? And then building trust, fostering psychological safety and collaboration within teams.
Hmm. Well, I think you're bringing this great point about collaboration. And, uh, and in today's environment, it is not the loner, but the someone who is able to collaborate with within the team and outside the team really make a difference. And someone who really knows how to lead without the title, how to lead before you are given that authority will really make a difference. And in my experience, that happens when you, the first thing it happens when you are performing. So the moment you are become a performer, automatically you create that environment within your peer group that you are someone who can be seen, or who can be trusted, or who can give advice. So the first and foremost thing for aspiring leaders is to make sure that you are performing, you are visible, and you are doing what is required for you to do. And it's not a surprise that there is no substitute for hard work. Unfortunately, there is no substitute for hard work. I do understand that in today's environment people are talking about working smart rather than working hard, but the way I look at it, there is no substitute for hard work. Hard work is important, and hard work will always supersede the talent. So there is no way, no two way to look into that. Now, so Phil, from your experience, the way you connect with your clients and the way you support your clients, what practices do you guide your clients that helps them regulate the nervous system, especially when the leadership pressure shows up? What are those uh, guidance that you give to your clients?
So it's that recognition of what are you feeling, because and it's polyvagal neuroscience is a lot based on polyvagal theory by Dr.
Mhm.
Stephen Porges, and it's a recognition of your vagus nervous system and how you manage that and how it influences you, psychological and biologically. And we've all heard in a lexicon of gut feel or something's heartfelt, where your gut, heart, and mind are all connected. But 80% of what we end up enacting in our lives is through the gut, how the body feels, through that gut and the heart,
Mm.
and those lessons that the body stores. And then you've got the cognitive response around how you get those actions. So being aware of that and understanding, one, how you're regulating and how you're feeling. So as you mentioned earlier, that yes, there is hard work and there's grit within that, and you can do that in a safe environment. But often we feel like all those plates that we're managing to keep spinning or coming a little bit loose, it's the impact on the body. You can feel the
Mm.
impact on the body. So how do you get to the point where, yeah, I'll work hard and I'll do all these things and I'm resilient, but actually I feel like I'm falling apart inside and I'm not able to manage in that. And I'm then using things to suppress those emotions or feelings or to keep myself going. And so it's that focus on the psychological and biological pieces of feeling in with the body and understanding what does that mean and assessing, being able to go through a process. There's a 5-step process we use to understand, hey, what is showing up in there? What is that making me feel? Where does that come from? How do I regulate? Because we need to be able to manage the nervous system and how it regulates.
So, so what you're referring to, Phil, is it the sign of a burnout for corporate employees? Is that the not recognizing the symptoms from your body or the signals from your body? Is that what leads to burnout? What's your thought process?
It can be. It can for sure, in terms of you pushing yourself beyond. You're not getting regular sleep. Your diet isn't as you would want it to be. You're perhaps taking alcohol and drinking more of that, and then you're not able to reset and relax and switch off. And there's many distractions in the world, even when we're seen as relaxing. Use of phones and videos and short clips still cause unregulation within the nervous system, so that you're not able to speak with that clarity. You haven't got the internal space to be able to approach complexity with clarity. And so noticing those things can, before you get to a burnout state where your body says, I need to stop. And that's something where I ended up myself a few years ago. And there's other outstanding influences on that, where there's the situation you're within, whatever, whether that's a personal or in business, can become hopeless and you lose track of that. So there's different steps around going through to burnout. But it's also the collective. How collective is a team? Are we burnt out? Are we not got the relationships within there? We're not regulating and having that space within that group.
Interesting. So, for someone who is listening to us, Phil, what one simple advice or practice you can share that they can try this week to regulate their emotions or to regulate their nervous system?
So it's part of how do you prepare for a day. So I'm recently working with or training with a creator based in the Neurosmart business, Andrew Edmondson in the UK, and it's not productivity, it's preparation. So how do we make sure you get your internal system in the world ready before the world asks you anything? So where do you give yourself that space? So when you're waking up in the morning, hopefully you've had a restful night's sleep, but are you straight in? I'm looking at my phone, I'm going off, I've got to do things. And I know people are busy, there's families, but be able to give yourself some space to prepare so that you're able to regulate your internal system and notice where you're at, because your story of your life follows state. So if your state is unregulated or you're feeling out of tune, then the story and the things that you will do will impact you throughout the whole day. So by being able to put some internal preparation in place, whatever that is, going for a walk, going having a coffee, as long as that is at the right place, or tea or water, hydrating, movement, stretch. It doesn't have to be a long period of time, 5-10 minutes. Give yourself some space to help with that regulation. And that's your preparation for then dealing with what the world is going to present to you each day.
Wow. So what I'm listening or hearing from you is the start of your day, the preparation for your day really makes a difference, because if you're not well prepared, you will end up doing things that probably you should not be doing. Is that the right understanding, Phil?
Yeah, it's how you're then influencing throughout the day. If you're not in a regulated state in the morning, how we're able to do that, and then taking a check through in the day, and it can be difficult, but it's giving yourself that time to do that. And one of those techniques that I've then introduced through the day and did with the teams that I work with was do meetings when you're walking. Walk and share and listen. I end up calling it share what you need to do and listen to people, because listening builds trust. But while you're out there walking, you're starting to regulate. It's helping you. If you're able to get outside and run into nature, even in a city or an area, you're able to go that, and you create that space between you, and you're able to then co-regulate. And there's a really strong example of that where I was walking with a manager of mine. It's a really stressful meeting. The meeting was delayed that we were starting, and so I said, look, let's go out for a walk. And it took 20 minutes before the pace of the walking slowed down to a regular, and then we were able to co-regulate, and then we had the meeting. So use that time to do it. And one second tip, just for self, without being with others, have walks for 5, 10, or 15 minutes planned out. Know in your mind, whether you're working from home or in an office or elsewhere, I can go for a walk. If the time presents itself, or I can create it, have a route that says I can do this in 5 minutes, I can do this in 10 or 15. Give yourself some space throughout the day, after doing preparation or not in the morning, to help be able to regulate, because that is proven scientifically to help regulate the nervous system. So those are the two things that are around walking.
Wow. Wow. So aspiring leaders, the three things, if the way I have taken it from Phil, is number one, prepare for tomorrow. So make sure that you have very clear understanding of what you will be doing tomorrow. So when you're prepared enough, when you have made sure that you have all the things listed, what you will be doing tomorrow, it definitely helps you in taking control of the day rather than day controlling you. Second thing is, understand the signals the body is giving to you. Don't ignore those signals. Those signals are very, very important. And once you know those signals, you will be able to prevent yourself from burning out. And number three, as Phil just mentioned about walking, have frequent walks, maybe 1, 5, 10 minutes walk. That will help you release your stress, as well as help you absorb things from a different perspective. And I think Phil, you also mentioned about listening. Listening builds trust. So if you are focusing on leading before the title, practice these things that will definitely pave the path for you to lead before the title. Thank you, Phil, for sharing those inputs. Now, before I let you go, what's next for you, Phil, in terms of the impact you are making in the community, especially for leaders who are navigating pressure and transition? What are your thought process, and what's next for you?
Yeah, so for me, in terms of what are those next step, is be able to support and guide people through transformations of the business or self. Real change doesn't begin in the head; it begins in your body. Is what I've talked about around where you're feeling, and your nervous system is already right in the first lines of this now. We talk about people have a lot of things around new year, new start, but you've got to focus on in tuning that. So look at how safe or steady or stretch you feel, how well you've been sleeping. We've talked about the biology. Helping people to be able to prepare and practice in regulating your own nervous system through the biology of sleep, exercise, rest, and diet, because your internal state becomes other people's working environment. If you really think about that, that's who you present and show up in the morning or afternoon or whenever you connect with someone, that becomes their working environment of how they're looking to navigate with. So if you're in an uncontrolled way, or you're dysregulated, a little bit like in an environment, it can happen with work where there's a stressful meeting, but if that's how you're showing up all the time in a sense of fight or flight, then you're creating other people's working environment. And that's a really key part. So if we're going through change or transformation, people are going to approach that based on their own previous experiences that are already held and embodied in the body. How do you recognize that? So listening to understand and not to respond to people builds trust. So it's in creating an environment where people are able to embrace that, not the techniques of being a leader, but how you and your body are doing it. And so it's incremental gains. There's many other ways around learning and developing as a leader, but this is an element of understanding how you're preparing your nervous system and how that affects the culture and what you can do as a leader. So
Wow.
that's what I'm looking to support individuals and organizations.
Awesome. Very cool. And I'm very glad that you are doing this because it's the need of an hour. And leaders, aspiring leaders, if you're listening to us, what just Phil mentioned is your internal state becomes the environment for others. So if you're not in the right frame of mind, push that meeting, push that conversation, because it's not something that will be fruitful. Make sure
So,
that you are releasing all the stress, not in front of your people, but in a different way, maybe going for a walk, listening to music. And when you come back to either to work or with your family, you're stress free.
or
Sorry, Phil,
create
you
the
were saying something?
environment. Yeah, create the environment where go for a walk, have one meetings with a walk, because you don't know how your team, the other person, or a group. Many times we created an environment where and tried where we'd have meetings outside and we go for a walk and go for a coffee first and have that chat. So create that space where people are able to relax and regulate, and then you're going to be more productive in doing that. And you don't need to have
Right.
a lot of walk away from a meeting frustration, tired, angry, whatever it is that's not productive in terms of doing that. So recognize it, and then look at the tools and techniques, and then practice it, and then prepare for the day around I'm practicing how I am internally and preparing for what I need to do.
Cool. And as we wrap up, team, and thank you, Phil, for sharing your insights, sharing your experience with our listeners. They are very, very great and incredible for us to really make our day, to really take care of people around us. Because once you become a leader, it's just not you, it's the people around you. So, folks, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this reminder that leadership growth isn't about chasing breakthroughs or waiting for your next role. It is about that quiet work you do every single day, being steady, and how you choose clarity over reaction. As Phil mentioned, listen from a listening perspective, not from responding perspective. Leading before the title is not a moment, it's a practice. You will not be able to learn this overnight. You need to really practice it. You really need to pick up one thing and just make sure you do it. And the leaders who rise sustainably are the ones who take small, intentional step, that too consistently. So if today's conversation sparked something for you, don't just save it, apply one idea this week. And if you know someone carrying responsibility without authority, share this with them. With that closing note, I would like to invite you to join our LinkedIn group, which is Leadership Sounding Board. This is a safe space for you to share your day to day challenges and gain perspective from fellow leaders. Thank you. And once again, have a great rest of the day and become that aspiring leader that you deserve to be and that you're destined to be. Thank you, Phil. God
Thank
bless.
you.